Welcome back to another Distilled, where we bring you insights, intelligence, and innovations from across the marketing industry. I'm Steve Ween, founder of Distillery, and today I'm joined by Natalie Lambert. Natalie is an AI strategist. She's a Maven instructor, LinkedIn newsletter creator, and the person who might just convince you to stop saying AI agent for good. She works with global companies. She works with startups, also agencies, to train their teams to build custom tools to improve the impact of their marketing teams. And today, we're talking about AI agents, not just how they can make your marketing faster, but actually how they can make it better than ever before. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us on Distilled. How are you today?
I'm great. That was quite an introduction. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Before we dive in, for those who might not know you, can you give us your elevator pitch for who you are and what you do?
Yes. So I am a marketer and human who is obsessed with efficiency and productivity. Every job that I have had since I graduated has been in some way, shape, or form associated with the productivity space. So when I graduated with a computer science degree, I went to Forrester Research, became an analyst, all on, at the time, which was the kind of killer productivity tool, which was around desktop virtualization and being able to work from anywhere. It's amazing that that's what was considered productivity back then, 25 years ago, but desktop virtualization was it. And every job I have had really since that time, so since I graduated, has always been working for either like an analyst firm or consulting or working for tech vendors that made people more productive. So that has just been the thing that drives me, and I care about that in my personal and private life. So for now, what I am focused on is kind of bringing my obsession and my loving playing around with all of the different AI tools to teams to help them embed AI into all of their workflows. And I do this by kind of do custom training, as you mentioned. I create custom tools for them. I help with content. But my goal is to make AI feel like truly strategic and fun, and to have it make your job better than compared to just like these trendy things people talk about. So I live in the practicality and using these tools to get more done and get more done better.
And Natalie, your energy and your passion is so infectious. And you've just finished some big projects, and some courses. Can you let us know what's top of your mind right now?
Yeah. So I would say two things. One, on the personal side, as it pertains to this stuff, if you haven't started vibe coding and just playing with these tools to see what you can build, like, you are missing out. So I would say that's kind of the top thing in the personal side of me. But on the kind of the day-to-day work that I do, it's getting people to kind of think about these tools differently than when they first launched. I think so many people kind of saw these tools and AI is going to take my job and AI is going to do all of this stuff and take away the fun things I like to do. When really, if you can reframe how you're using AI to kind of think about it as labor you lead, as a team you manage, as a delegation point for all the stuff you really hate to do, you can start to find joy in creating these tools and finding ways to delegate that other work, but also getting to focus on all the stuff you love. So for me, it's really helping marketers reframe how AI can help them so that they can take advantage of the capabilities that they bring.
And I think that reframing is such a great place for us to start. And, you've been in the AI space, I've done the stalking online. You've been in this space well before, it became the LinkedIn buzzword of the year. And I love the origin story of one of the ways that you are reframing AI, and how changing language completely can change a relationship with technology. Can you talk about sort of the AI concept and that reframing that we were just talking about earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting. I'm going to use my Maven course just as the metric here, because training with companies is one thing, but training on Maven is having an individual come and want to learn, and an individual come and want to pay to participate in a class. And for the past kind of year and a half or so, I talked about AI as the rest of, to your point, LinkedIn is, which is like, use AI, do these different tasks, build your agent, build your automation. And when talking about that, I was one of everyone talking about things that sounded really, really difficult. And I think to some people, or to most people, it felt like something out of reach. It felt like, oh, if I'm going to create an agent, like, this is going to take a lot of work. Like, I'm not technical, I can't do that. And so people kind of associated kind of AI with these agents, and it was something that I couldn't do and I didn't have access to. But the more I used AI personally, and the more I kind of built my GPTs and built my gems, I really started to think about them as teammates. As a solopreneur now, I work alone. And these became the folks that I was interacting with on a day-to-day basis, like to the point where I name them. And so now I'm going to go into crazy land, and where people are going to like think I'm nuts. But like, I even like will talk to my husband at night, who like goes into work and has a job, and he'll talk about the things that happen. I'm like, this is what Mia and I talked about today. Like, they've become humanized people, but they take on tasks that I don't want to do. And so when I started talking about this, it's like, build your team, and maybe one person on your team, writes headlines. Maybe one person on your team, copy edits your content. These are things like, as a solopreneur, I don't have access to. And so I just started to create these teammates that did these different things for me. And that is how I thought of it. So I started bringing my crazy out there and started talking about them as teammates. And my Maven course blew up. And it literally went from like kind of struggling to be relevant there and to teach something interesting, to people recognizing that AI wasn't complicated. It wasn't just agents and automation, that if you think about them just as teammates you could build to help, they wanted to participate in it. So I felt like that simple reframing and just seeing it in the context of a Maven course and what people want to join really did change the conversation of AI being approachable.
Yeah, I think that's such a fascinating shift. From agent, to teammate, and perhaps there's also an element of accessibility in there.
Accessibility, collaboration. I mean, if it's a teammate, you're relevant to that teammate. Like, you are, for all the ICs out there listening to this podcast, you're now a manager. You've just been promoted. And how can you create a team to best help you? Like, what is that structure that you can put in place that you can kind of train this teammate to do things exactly how you would want them to? Like, you can write down that process, give them exact instructions, and you can now start to delegate the parts of your job that you don't want to do. And it's a framing that gets kind of ICs excited about now being promoted. They have a team of managers, but like, that is what the future that these technologies are going to bring.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned structuring your teammates. Do you have any ideas on how you could build that structure of your team?
So I tend to, the analyst in me, I can't help it. I have frameworks, I have structures. It's who I am. It's in me. I tend to look at the teammate structure as having three types of teammates. Okay. And teammates come in the form of task-based. So these are the tacticians. Like, these are the folks, you give them a process and they will execute that process over and over again flawlessly. Things I'd put into this category, something like copy editing. I'm sure we can all sit here and tell somebody, if we had to describe it, what we want. If I want something copy edited, I want somebody to read it. I want them to look at the overall readability. Does it make sense? Call out places that don't. I want you to see if there's any weird word choices that don't totally make sense. And then I want you to, after all that is done, there's three things in grammar I care about. I care about sentence case. I care about the Oxford comma. I care about sentence case, Oxford comma, and active voice being the third. I just sat there and explained what I want done. You can write that in a process and literally train a teammate to read the content, pull out, tell me everything that doesn't make sense or strain word choice, find all the grammatical issues that fit into this category, call them all out for me, and once you're done, rewrite the document. So now, following that process, I have a task-based teammate that's just following a process and giving me an output. So that's what I consider a task-based teammate, like one that can easily follow a process.
That's a really good start, the task-based teammate. What other examples have you got, Natalie, of how you're structuring teammates?
Yeah, so you nailed it, and that's the start. That's kind of the most basic type of teammate you can create. The next is builder. And builder are your creators. They are the ones that actually help you kind of create a new piece of content. Now, I hesitate saying the word content because I think too many people put that into the bucket of content marketing. Content can be a weekly email that you have to send to the executive team. Content can be a creative brief. It can be so many different things. But a builder, one who creates, can really be trained on two different ways. You can either train a builder teammate to take on the voice, style, and tone of somebody. So maybe the somebody is you want someone trained on your writing style. The somebody might be a brand. The somebody might be the executive team if you're in executive comms and you're writing on behalf of them. But you can create a teammate that has truly learned the structure, the word choices, the overall affect, like all of those different things that writer writes about to be able to replicate in that form. The other type of builder teammate is like one that's focused on a template. It's one that's focused on content that is generally in a templated, formatted form. So think of something like a case study. Maybe case studies always start with the customer background and the customer pain, and then why they chose this solution and the results they got. Like maybe it's those 4 sections. You want every single one structured that way. And there are some guidelines around what each header should be like, whatever the case would be. You can actually train a teammate to read your best 10 case studies and create a template guide. So unlike the style guide for the person whose voice you're taking on, this is create a template guide for what every single piece of content looks like. So then if you have like a customer transcript of a customer call, you can actually give it to that teammate and it will restructure that entire transcript into these buckets because you've trained it on that is the format that you're looking for. So that's where builder comes in. The final one, and probably my favorite, is the perspective-based teammate. So you have the one that do tasks and you have the ones that create. Now you need something that reviews. And this reviewer is one that can take on the persona of your target customer, or it can take on the persona of like a market expert, whatever the case may be for you needing something reviewed. And now every single time that you have a piece of content, if you have an idea, if you have an event, if you what you name it, you can actually have somebody to vet this idea, this content by. And it really is a way to level up the content that you create once you know that somebody will review it at every step of the process.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's giving me a slightly different perspective on our work at Distillery as a creative practice. One of the teammates, now I'm stealing with pride. One of our teammates is a creative testing methodology where we can load in creative assets such as a piece of video content. And we can then look at the performance metrics before that piece of content even goes live. So we can iterate very, very quickly. And we are getting a perspective-based teammate to help us make our work better very, very quickly. So before it goes back to a client, we may have iterated 2 or 3 different times to make that piece of video content, that campaign, whatever it might be, much more effective for our clients. So it's a really powerful tool or very powerful teammate.
It is, and like I'll tell you, I have a marketing leader persona. Her name's Genevieve. I told you I named them all, and Genevieve has been trained. I mean, I think her training has, I don't know, 5 to 10 pages of background there. And again, this isn't fancy training. This is like going to deep research in any of the GPT tools, like in ChatGPT or Google, and just kind of having them help build this persona out. and you ask kind of what are your pains, what are your struggles, all that stuff. It creates this teammate, and then you can give this teammate instructions. So now, whenever I write a piece of content or I'm doing something, it goes by Genevieve. And Genevieve focuses on a few things. Like she focuses on what she likes. She focuses on honest disagreement. She focuses on, so honest disagreement, where I'm missing something, that she's missing a connection point. She looks at, so 1, 2, 3, she looks at questions she has after reading this, which is great for kind of thinking through what that next piece of content is. She then says more specifically, what she would like to read more of after. And then I have it give me like an actionability and an engagement score. So every single time I put a piece of content in there, I get all of this feedback. And for me, like, am I going to take all of it? No. I mean, this is where your humanness comes in. I generally find 70%. Like, that's just been the magic number around how much of it I take. The 30% is not that it's bad. It's that it might just not be what this thing was designed for. Like, it doesn't have all that context. But just think about this compared to the previous world. How many people out there have been told by their managers, trust me, I've been there, like, go create a panel of customers who want to read every single piece of content before you publish it. It's just not going to happen. Like, it sounds wonderful, but like, there's reality, and you're not going to get that. But if you create a synthetic persona that is reading your content, it's evaluating your messages, and doing that at a level of scale, you get, I swear to God, like 80-90% of the benefit at like 5% of the cost.
Natalie, one of the things that I recently took from your LinkedIn newsletter was the teammates that you build out in terms of an advisory board. And I think that is, for me, that was such a game changer, where we can put ourselves in the position of some of our clients. So if you're a CMO, I can now riff with the teammate from, just say, the CFO from the organization, and really take ideas, thinking, and bounce it off the CFO before our client, the CMO, even walks into a meeting. And I think that is a complete game changer, and that is one of the many nuggets I've taken from your newsletter.
Can I take that one step further, which I actually haven't covered in a newsletter, and I probably should, which is, okay, we've done that for the customer and for the board around them. Start thinking about this in terms of industryizing content. So like, if you start to make these personas more specific, so then there's like your persona for manufacturing, your persona for government, your persona for financial services, and start getting that feedback and actually having that teammate rewrite the content using the words relevant to that more specific persona. Like, all of this becomes possible when you start building these out.
Definitely. And I think taking that one step further, not just around industry, but also really segmenting those industries by job title. So what is it the developers are interested? What is it that the IT DMs are interested in? What is it that the C-suite is interested in? And I think that's where it gets so interesting. And really, we can create that content that is really resonating, understanding those industry challenges and the opportunities for content to engage with those challenges that are most relevant. And what I find underpinning this conversation, Natalie, is we've moved a long way away from AI, we've just got to do everything faster, to actually what we're talking about is finally AI making things better. To me, that is such a fundamental leap forward. Would you agree?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's so interesting because still so often I talk to clients, and they're bringing me in for training or something, and I used to present all these ROI slides in my presentations. I don't think I have presented ROI in over a year at this point, because there is an assumption that faster, cheaper is there. But what's interesting is there isn't a focus on better. And like, I think I don't know if people assume it. I don't think they do, because all we hear about a lot on like things like LinkedIn is like the AI slop. But when used well, we can now do more, personalize more, get more feedback, so it's more relevant than ever before. I mean, I was writing a blog one time, and it literally called BS on something that I had to think about. I was like, you know what? It's so right. Like, and it's really interesting to get that other opinion. And I know I said this before, but I think it's worth reiterating. In the yesterday times, we couldn't get that feedback. So we get it after the fact. But if you could start to make something more relevant, more interesting, more engaging, more hitting on the pain points of your audience, like, you are just fundamentally making it better in less content, because you don't have to go write the second piece because the first one didn't cut it. So, I do think, it might not always be faster. It might not always be cheaper. But when you start to bring in these additional perspectives, you're starting to make it better. Then you're starting to make it more personalized. You're creating more. I do believe the bar gets raised.
So what kind of results are you seeing?
So this is, I mean, let's be really honest, like, this is its infancy. I think some of the
Yeah.
most progressive companies that I'm working with this was actually a really fun project for me, but we are building out full synthetic persona people one-on-one, and then full panels to do message testing at scale. And this is where you can, have a conversation one-on-one about a message being aligned to a very specific problem of a very specific audience, and then actually running an AI panel and testing this across all of them to get scores and actually do this in some quantifiable manner. Folks who are really thinking like this are seeing benefits in things like engagement rate and click-through rates of their content. So it's really, great to see that. I will tell you in all transparency, the numbers are small. Like, we just haven't seen people go full kind of war on all of this. But I've yet to talk to a company that is spending more per se. People are able to bring kind of certain content things and all of that in-house. But for the leading companies who are really beginning to look beyond the kind of just writing the single piece of content and truly doing levels of reviews, are seeing results there. One company I'm working with has the data of an entire social campaign that they did, kind of vetting it kind of before and after. And they can tell definitively they had 3 specific groups, ABC groups. They had the one that AI created. They had like the one that an agency created, and then they had the one that the AI persona vetted. And the vetted one did perform better. Ironically, the AI one did second best and the human one did last, which is just always kind of interesting to see the numbers. And I have a whole bunch of thoughts on why that happened. But regardless, like, I think these tools, when used smartly, will outperform how we could do things before.
So Natalie, I think we're in a bit of a golden age. I think AI tools are cheap, they're accessible, they're wildly capable, but this time's it's not going to last forever. If you're advising a CMO today, what's the one action related to AI that they could take now? And perhaps what teammate would you advise them to build first?
Despite everything I said about personas and perspectives making everything better, the reality is I do see that as a much more advanced tactic. Not hard, let's not confuse things, but just more advanced for somebody who's a little more comfortable with the tools. I think people today, especially marketers, are still afraid to use a lot of these tools. Whether it be that they're afraid their jobs are going to be taken, they're afraid that it's cheating. I mean, the amount of cheating I hear is astronomical in that. And so what I think CMOs need to do is push this from the top down. They need to show that it's okay, it is approved, it is supported, it is encouraged. And so finding something to create that touches everybody. And so I would actually go back to the task-based teammate here and create something like a quality compliance checker, so that every idea, every blog, anything that is going to get sent up to the CMO to approve goes through a level of checks. And maybe you actually create the teammate to score it, and nothing can be sent to the CMO unless it passes with a certain score, and you have to kind of show it, whatever the case may be. But like it's if you do something like a quality checker where it's doing a set of checks that matter, it's super easy to create. So low friction, high value, and now you're forcing the use of these tools across the team. And I do think that once people start playing, they want to add more. I mean, that is one of the things that, come out in all my trainings, which is you start building one thing. And once you see it used, the light bulb goes off. And it's like, oh, well, if I can do this, I could then go do this and this and this. And it unlocks the imagination on what can be created. But you're not going to have that unlock if you're too scared to touch it. So that's my advice, which is kind of counter to kind of the more advanced techniques, but it's getting people to use it, making sure they're trained, and making sure that they know it's okay, and letting them see where their imagination goes.
I couldn't agree more. I think for us at Distillery, the organizations that we're working with, it's how we help them, build this muscle now. It's, we work at such a pace, even from 6 months ago. It's how we can integrate our workflow, and going back to those checks and balances, for us to agree workflows and to help the clients that we're working with and our partners to embrace that workflow where things are going to, well, they can happen much, much faster, but also much more effectively. The quality of work happens at a faster pace, with more insight and more thinking around it. So it's how we're building that muscle as the landscape is shifting, so our clients aren't scrambling to catch up, and we're all really moving at the same pace, and that ladders through the organizations.
Yeah, and I would hope, and I think you've even said it, but what this has enabled you to do is be more strategic. Think of more of the bigger ideas. You get to do all that when you have these kind of checkers working behind the scenes. So to me, I go back to, it's not cheating. It's good. Everybody should want their agencies and their workers using this, because they can now vet more ideas and just have more of inputs to create that much better output.
So for anyone who has joined us and watched this episode of Distilled, and they're thinking, I need to build my AI team, I need to start building it now, where should they go?
I'd first say just start playing with the tools. Things like gems, things like GPTs. They might sound really complex, especially because they're called custom AI models, or even like Microsoft calls them agents, which drives me nuts because they're not agents. But the point is, they sound complicated. And go and start playing. Just see how easy it is to get these things up and running. So I would say, like, your first is just playing, give it a process, and start to see the results, and go in and refine. So I think like that's your number one. Number two, I do have a newsletter. And I love, Steve, that you're such an avid reader of it. But that newsletter goes through, it's a very short newsletter. It's like 3 minutes every single week. And it goes through a prompt. It goes through an idea. It goes through I call it my AI playground, but it goes through something to test to see how you can make this apply to your work. And better yet, see if it can give you inspiration to build your own something else. And so I would say that's number two. Number three is, I do have a Maven course on building AI teammates. We're just finishing up this round, but if you go in there and join the waitlist, you'll be notified the next time I offer it.
I couldn't encourage everyone enough to go and join the waitlist for the Maven course. I was speaking to someone the other day who's actually been through the course, and she could not speak highly enough about it. But listen, Natalie, thank you so much for your time today. It's been It's been so brilliant catching up with you, hearing all of your thoughts. I'm going to go away and build an army of teammates. I
have like 200. I mean, I go down to the micro task. I mean, I have one that's like my YouTube titles, my LinkedIn YouTube description. Like I go micro so I can train them super. I don't think people need to be as crazy as me, but they are a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. And I love actually naming them. So maybe I need a teammate who can help me name my teammates.
You can go onto my website and look at the content service I offer, and they're all named. Here's the whole team that's going to help you by name.
I love it. I will drop a link to your website underneath this video. Don't forget to subscribe to Natalie's newsletter. I'm also going to drop a link to that below. Make sure you get on the wait list for her next course. Don't miss out. And please do hit subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got more awesome guests coming right up. And why not leave us a comment below? Thank you again for joining us, Natalie.
Thank you.
Cheers. See you next time.